What's up, and welcome inside the Opening Line, part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Benny Ricciardi wasn't with you yesterday. My throat would not allow me to talk, which would not be good. And Benny, you're not 100% today.
Yeah, no, not really feeling all that great. I don't know, man. It's the weather. It goes from being 70, you take your shorts out and your T-shirts, and then the next day you go outside and it's 50 degrees and, you know, your nipples are hard. I mean, what
yeah, no, I feel you on that one because the temperatures have been going back and forth. But you got some recapping from the weekend to do. And I think, Benny, we got to start with talking about something that we've talked about at least 3 or 4 times, this landing area rule in the NBA and how it refers to the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors, their game 1 battle. We saw it with Virginia several times. We saw it with Auburn in the NCAA tournament. That first half of the game, those non-calls against Harden, I did have a problem with, even as somebody that was rooting for the Golden State Warriors.
So here's my problem. The problem is really twofold, right? So first off, let's go over the rule. The rule is, as a defensive player, you're allowed verticality.
Yes.
Meaning you can stand straight up. And if the guy jumps into you, then it's not a foul on you because you are allowed to be there. You are allowed to be straight up. What happened a bunch of times in the NCAA tournament, and what is happening in some of these games is the defensive player is coming into the offensive player's space.
Yeah.
Now, again, if you're standing there playing defense and you're straight up in the air and the offensive player jumps into you after his jump shot or kicks you with his foot like a lot of guys are doing, you know, we used to call it the Reggie Miller, right? Remember Reggie Miller would come off the screen and he'd always have that foot out and he'd draw some contact and he'd get to the free throw line. You are allowed to go straight up. The thing that these guys are doing, though, is they're coming up and they're crowding these guys as they're shooting, or they're jumping and trying to avoid them while they're landing. I hate to say it, but anytime you make contact when you're moving forward, by definition, that's a foul. So you look at some of those plays in the first half, you know, I know guys were trying to avoid them and the guys were trying to play defense, and that's all well and good. But your job is to stay straight up. If you do anything more than straight up, even if you lean forward, you are now coming into the space of the offensive player, and that's a foul. So, you know, again, I was rooting for the Warriors too. I had money on the Warriors in that game, but some of those plays are fouls. Now, the second part of the problem, though, Corey, is some of these guys are starting to act like soccer players out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the problem.
You're faking injuries like you just got shot by a cannon or something here trying to draw the foul. And they need to understand this is the problem. When you're refereeing a basketball game and you know guys are doing that, even if somebody is taking some of that space for you, the referee is not going to give you the benefit of the doubt if he knows that you're trying to get the call. Do you know what I mean?
And that's what it seems like the case was with the Rockets and the Warriors. Obviously, it looks like the referee said before that game started that they were not allowed Harden and Paul to get that call when they were intentionally looking for contact. Yes. James Harden, well-known flopper. Chris Paul, that one where he threw his ass into the guy. I mean, you're not going to get that call.
Mm-hmm.
The one late in the game with Draymond Green, where Draymond said, "I've been fouled by James," while James was shooting the three. That was one right there where Harden did kick his legs out. But in the first half, those ones, I believe that those fouls should have been called against Klay Thompson.
Yeah, but I mean, this is, you know, it's the whole argument of the boy who cries wolf, right? I mean, if you keep doing it on every single shot, you know, the referee's not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So it goes from you being the one who should get the benefit of the doubt on any close call when there's contact to the referee saying, hey, I know this guy has a history of doing this and trying to draw these fouls and you know, kind of flopping, quote unquote, on offense.
Yeah.
And if he's going to do that, then unless it's blatant that a guy runs into him and knocks him off while his shot's going up, I'm not going to call it. Now, you could say what you want. One thing I always used to say to the kids on my team when I was coaching is, you know, as long as the referees are consistent, I don't mind because you can adjust the way you play as long as they're being consistent. So if you're not going to call that a foul in the first minute, then it's not a foul in the last minute of the game either. If you are going to call it a foul in the first minute, then call it a foul in the last minute of the game, because then at least as a player or as a coach, I could say, all right, I know that they're calling this tight, or I know that they're letting this go, and I can adjust the way that I'm playing to, you know, to fit the way that the referees are reffing the game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So now you got to see what adjustments are made. You got to see how these games are officiated moving forward. Obviously, the NBA on full alert on this one. especially when it comes to James Harden. But you make a good point about the boy who cried wolf. It's almost like they have an agenda against James Harden in this series, number one. And number two, something that people don't really think about, the deeper you get into the postseason, the more likely the referee is to swallow the whistle. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, and you know what? I'm not even kidding. That's the way it should be, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is a man's game out there right now, you know? Again, I'm not saying if a guy gets, completely cleared out, it's like, oh, it's no foul, it's a man's game. But you shouldn't be calling touch fouls right now, especially early in the game, right? Because, I mean, how many times do we see a game decided because some superstar picked up his third foul early in the second quarter, and it becomes a 15, 18-point game where the second half, even if this team is playing well, it's too big a deficit to make up. I don't pay money to go to these games to watch the referees ref.
Exactly.
I pay money to go watch Steph Curry and James Harden and Kevin Durant and Chris Paul and all those guys play. So let them go out there and play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good game one that started, high-intensity game. I think the word that was used several times was cantankerous. I don't even know what that means, but you know what? It seems like that series is going to give us all that we wanted. I wish it could have been in the conference finals, but it's going to be a good series, Benny. And then I look at it, really, the way Kevin Durant has played since he more or less said, I'm Kevin Durant. You do know that, right? He's been on the heater ever since then. It looks like he is going to leave some good memories behind the Golden State Warriors as he goes on this championship run. 1-0 lead, but there's still plenty of series left to go.
Yeah, I mean, one of the coolest things, I don't know if you saw this, they had an interview after the last Clippers game when they knocked the Clippers out, and it was Patrick Beverley
and Lou Will, yeah,
and they were sitting there. And I some reporter basically asked them, like, well, why didn't you try to stop Kevin Durant or, whatever? and they were both like, all right, listen, like, he's Kevin Durant. Like, and these are other superstar NBA players saying this about Kevin Durant. And, Lou Williams had a great line. He's like, listen, there's a reason why this guy is one of the best players in the league. He basically said, I'm Kevin Durant. And then he went out there and he realized that he could shoot over us because he's got a couple inches on all of us. And he went out there and just started dropping points because that's what he does. And he was basically saying, like, listen, we switched up coverages. We doubled them sometimes. We sent guys to attack him off of the pick and roll. We tried taller guys on him. We tried shorter guys on him. Like, he was like, believe me, we tried everything. Sometimes a guy is just that good. And Kevin Durant, especially the way he's playing right now, is just that good.
Yeah, especially. I mean, you know the greatness of it. Obviously, he's going to stand out a little bit more this postseason with LeBron James not being in the mix. But you got to like the way he's playing basketball. Draymond Green also, when the season first started, the first half of the season, Draymond Green looked washed up, and right now he looks like a totally different player as we get deeper into the Western Conference playoffs and moving forward, Benny. Once again, you're seeing that for the greatness of Steph Curry, for the greatness of Klay, and for the greatness of Durant. The heart and soul of this team still runs through Draymond Green.
So Draymond Green's the kind of guy that we used to joke about when we were kids that, you always want him on your team. You never want to play against a guy like that. Draymond Green, the person, is kind of an asshole. Yeah. Everybody kind of agrees with that. But Draymond Green, the basketball player, does all the things you need.
He's like Pat Beverly.
Yeah, he does. Exactly. That's actually a good description because these are the guys that are willing to do all the things that may not show up in the box score, or that most people don't realize. Like, everybody thinks about basketball players like, oh, man, did you see Kevin Durant drop 50 the other night? But when you have a guy like Draymond Green, you're like, nobody ever says, hey, did you see Draymond Green go out and get 12 rebounds and 8 assists and score 13 points and play shutdown defense? You need those guys as much as you need the guy that scores 50 if you're going to win games, which is what the Houston Rockets found out in the last game where they basically had – the three guards on the perimeter and Gordon, Chris Paul, and James Harden doing everything. But they didn't have those big guys that were rebounding and getting those easy.
The Warriors did a good job, Benny, of taking Clint Capella away. Those lobs to Clint Capella in the paint were not there. A lot of the coverage that rolled towards Clint Capella, they understand that Clint Capella is a player they have to stop because Harden and Paul are going to get there. Obviously, you got Gordon and stuff like that. P.J. Tucker also would have done it in that game. Taking away Capella and those pieces around those big stars were very big for Golden State as they won game one.
So remember we talked about the Clipper series, and I was like, man, Montrezl Harrell just like absolutely ate them up that series by running the pick and roll with Lou Williams. Well, it's not even that they adjusted. Here's the difference between the Clippers and the Houston Rockets, right? The Clippers in the corner, you have Danilo Gallinari who can knock down shots, and even a guy like Landry Shamet who comes off the bench, Michael Green. So these guys can stretch the floor. The Rockets don't have that. The Rockets in the corner, you got PJ Tucker shooting in the one corner. So PJ Tucker's man can basically play in the middle of the lane. If PJ Tucker goes off and hits 5 or 6 threes and that's the way you lose, as a coach, I'm willing to chance that.
Yeah.
Because if I can give PJ Tucker 10 or 12 open shots in the corner, I don't expect him to knock down half of them. So I'm willing to take, the 2 or 3 that he does knock down versus the 6 or 7 possessions when he misses it. What they learned last series, though, is you can't stay on the outside and leave the middle open and double the ball and just let a guy like Montrezl Harrell go down the middle and get dunks all day. Clint Capella could do those same things, but like you said, they were rotating the coverage over so that even if they did go double the ball with Harden or Chris Paul or even Eric Gordon, who actually had a really good game one for them.
He did, yeah.
They were rotating the guy that was, the other big guy, which sometimes it was Draymond, sometimes it was Looney, sometimes it was even Kevin Durant. They were rotating them over to stop Capella on that lob that you're talking about. So now you're cutting off you're doubling the ball and forcing them to give it up. And you're taking away the middle, which is the easy shot for him. So the shot that's open or the pass that's open is to the corner of P.J. Tucker. And I'll live all series long with P.J. Tucker making all the decisions for the Houston Rockets.
Okay, would you live with Austin Rivers being in that corner if he gets healthy and returns to the series? See, that's where I think Houston can have an advantage. Because if you remember when they played that classic back, or I believe it was right after the New Year's, the game when Harden went off and hit the shot at the end when they came back and they got the win in overtime. Austin Rivers played a very big role in that game. I think he could be an unsung hero for Houston in this series.
See, the biggest problem for them if they go with Austin Rivers, though, is they're already playing the 3 guards, right? So you're already playing Chris Paul, Gordon, and Harden. And, Chris Paul is a solid defensive player, but he has limitations on the guys he can guard because of his size, right? Eric Gordon is kind of the same way, even though he's a little bigger. Gordon's about 6'5" or so. And Harden has never been known as a very good defensive player. So when you're going with that threesome already, you're really – offensively, you get a lot out of it. But defensively, you're already giving up a lot because now you're talking, one of those – those 3 guys are now guarding Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
That's not a good matchup for you. That's not a matchup that you want with those 3 guys on defense. If you put Rivers in there too, then you're basically talking those 3 guys and Rivers with Clint Capella, and there's no way they can match up. Even if Golden State goes small and has the – Iguodala, Draymond, Kevin Durant front line in there, you're still not going to be able to match up with those 4 guards. The biggest problem they have is they need a guy who can guard a 3 or a 4 and also hit the shot in the corner. And the best one they have is like a guy like Daniel House. And I don't know if that's really going to be the difference maker in the series.
No. House is not going to be the difference maker in the series, but it is going to be a good long series, I believe. Game 2 tonight back at Oracle Arena. Going to be interesting to see how the referees call this one tonight, Benny. We start the handicap and break that game down a little bit later on. But I want to talk about the first game this past Sunday with the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, Milwaukee is still favored in the series at -130. Boston's still sitting at +108. Benny, listen, I feel you with the Bucks and everything that you were saying and how you was riding for Budenholzer and all of that. Boston looks like the better team, Benny.
Budenholzer got outcoached badly by Brad Stevens in that first game. They got their ass absolutely kicked in that game, and I got to be honest, Boston looked really, really good. Here's the deal. I mean, I'm not ready to go ahead and switch sides at this point. Yeah. If you wanted to be on Boston, the time to be on Boston was before game 1 when you were getting them at +250. So I'm not hopping on them at +108 right now. But I will say this. A lot of times I'll ride with a team. If I think a team's going to win a series, even if they lose a game, like the Toronto Raptors, they lost that first game. I rode the Raptors for the 4 straight wins to get them out of the first round because I thought they were the much better team and I expected them to win there. With this series, I'm not riding the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
I'm not riding.
You're willing to abandon ship.
Again, the one great thing about sports betting is they have to put out a line. We don't have to take it if we don't want to. I still have money on the Bucks to win the championship. I still have some things live to the Bucks. The way I'm looking at it right now is this is not a spot where I want to invest anymore. Yeah. Right? Because, and again, I don't want to overreact.
Okay, put it like this. Tomorrow we come in here, we do this tomorrow morning, and the Bucks beat them by 15.
That's fine by me. But the thing is, it's still 1-1 now.
Yeah.
Right? So really, if you're the Boston Celtics, are you upset? You're going home 1-1.
You
You now have home court.
You got the home court advantage, yep.
Yeah, you have home court advantage. So really, before game one started, if you're the Boston Celtics and you're sitting in the locker room, what are you saying? You're saying we got to steal one of these two games so that we can get back to Boston and get home court advantage. They stole the first one. Now tonight they actually have a chance to go back to Boston up 2-0. You go back to Boston up 2-0, I'm feeling great about the Boston Celtics.
Put a fork in them at that point right there. Great job with Al Horford guarding Giannis. If you look at some of the stats, the Boston Celtics were very efficient in guarding Giannis at different times this season. Listen, the other players, the shooters are going to have to step up. But what you said is correct. Budenholzer has to go back, Budenholzer or whatever his name is, has to go back to the drawing board, and he has to figure out a way to outcoach Brad Stevens, specifically by finding ways to get Giannis open in the spaces where he likes to get the ball. That's the only shot the Bucks have. And then they can start knocking out some threes and open up their offense.
Put it this way, if Al Horford and Giannis play even for this series, there's no way the Bucks can win.
Yeah.
There's no way the Bucks can win because you can't have those two guys playing even. Giannis has to be a plus player for you because if you look at every other position on the floor, with the exception of Chris Middleton, you can't really argue that there's an advantage for the Milwaukee Bucks at any other position.
Nope.
So if Giannis is going to play even, like if Horford's going to be able to basically match Giannis, there's no way. That's why they lost the game by 22 because the supporting cast for Horford is so much better than the supporting cast for Giannis that, if those two play even, it's not even going to be a series. This is going to be a string of 20-point blowouts.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, one game does not tell the story of a series. If you're sitting up there and you're watching that game, and especially with the way Gordon Hayward is starting to step up now, you're like, oh, man, it feel like this can get ugly.
Yeah, well, again, like I said, it could be a whole series, a whole string of 20-point games.
Yeah.
Because who else really scores? I mean, to me, there's only two guys on Milwaukee that showed me that they have the balls to play in a series like this, and it's Chris Middleton and it's Giannis.
Yep.
I mean, Eric Bledsoe looked horrendous in that first game. He only played like 27
Bledsoe. Remember from last year? Who is Bledsoe?
Again, people forget, but losing Malcolm Brogdon was a big deal.
That was humongous for them.
He was a big scorer. He was a guy that kind of helped out with their second unit. He hit shots to stretch the floor in their first unit. I mean, that's the thing right now. It's you look at the way Milwaukee was actually able to get a little bit of offense, and it was guys like Mirotic and Ersan in the corner knocking down jump shots.
Ersan been doing it for years now.
Yeah, they were packing it in on Giannis in the middle. So you had Middleton hit some shots. You had Ersan and Mirotic hitting some shots. But I mean, if you have to rely on Ersan, Mirotic, and Middleton to outscore Kyrie and Tatum and Jaylen Brown and all those guys on the Celtics, like I said, I think the Celtics are in a really good spot there. If you don't get your 40-plus point, 15-rebound games out of Giannis, Milwaukee has no shot in this series.
Let me ask you this: when it comes to coaching, Benny, what kind of coach would you rather have? A player's coach who is a motivator and a guy that can get the team to run through a brick wall for them, or would you rather get a X and O tactician like a Brad Stevens? Because it seems like Stevens can get the X's and O parts right, but as far as managing the locker room, it seems like Stevens doesn't know where he's at.
I would rather have an X's and O's coach, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because especially at this level, if you can't get up for the NBA playoffs as a player, if you need someone to motivate you in the NBA playoffs in the semifinals of the Eastern Conference, then you're not much of a player. You're not much of a competitor to begin with.
Okay, but what about the fact that they are the number 4 seed? And if Victor Oladipo was healthy, they could have been the number 5 seed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. What was his effort and intensity at throughout the course of the regular season?
But let me ask you the same question then, right? Greg Popovich, I don't think anybody would argue, is probably one of the best coaches in the NBA, right?
Yeah, he had a 2 seed on the ropes. You're right.
Does he give two shits about the regular season?
Nope.
I mean, I know the Warriors finished as the number 1 seed this year, but did they really care during the regular season?
Nope. Yeah, you're right.
The regular season has become a place where you get yourself healthy, you win enough games to make it to the playoffs, and then when the playoffs come, you step it up and you turn it on.
You really don't see them pick up the intensity till late February anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, and isn't this kind of what the Celtics did this year anyway? Is Gordon Hayward was playing, 20, 24 minutes a game for, I don't know, 2/3 of the season. But now they brought him along slowly from what was a horrific leg injury last year. But now he looks like the old Gordon Hayward.
He really does. He's playing with a lot of confidence, Benny.
And yeah, and if he's going to be playing like that, this is going to be a team that's tough to beat. I mean, people forget, like, as great as Kyrie is, people were excited about both of these guys coming over because these were two studs that they expected to kind of lead the team. Now, for the first time, basically since they've come over here, you have both of these guys healthy and playing well, and these are the results.
And it's looked like even Kyrie was able to not play a full complement of minutes the other day, so they're continuing to keep their guys healthy. They're doing it without Marcus Smart, so the Boston Celtics seem to be in a good spot right now. I'm going to get to the other two NBA semifinal series going on in the Eastern and the Western Conference, Benny, but I want to hop to NFL draft right quick.
Good.
I tell you what, and I'm going to keep it up here in this area right here. Dave Gettleman, man, at some point he just needs to stop talking. Because now he's going around with this theory that there was two teams that I know for a fact where they came up there and got Daniel Jones. And obviously people think he's talking about the Broncos and the Redskins, but both of those teams were like, no, we was good.
and that's what I don't understand. It's like, listen,
Haskins, people that was with Haskins in the room with him, they had on DC apparel.
The Redskins got exactly what they wanted out of this. Yeah. Exactly what they wanted, because the Redskins, like most intelligent, people who were going after and scouting these players, had Haskins rated higher than Jones. So the Redskins were like, listen, you did us a favor. There was no way two teams were going to take Jones because both of those teams had Haskins rated higher.
Yeah. So
maybe you would have lost Jones to the Redskins if the Broncos traded up and took Haskins.
The Broncos came out and said they was on lock. The Broncos already just said no. The Broncos said we're not gonna bail you out.
Again, here's my problem, and we talked about this last week. Is if you're a Giants fan, the thing that you should be most upset about is that your GM didn't know the board.
Yeah.
Your GM didn't understand the way this draft was going to play out. Your GM apparently doesn't have NFL Twitter because there's not a single person besides him on NFL Twitter who had Daniel Jones being drafted anywhere near as high as he was. Listen, I don't want to knock the kid. This is his dream. He's worked.
It's not him. It's not Jones.
Yeah, he's worked his ass off to get to this point. And you know what? There's going to be a whole lot of people in hindsight, if Daniel Jones turns out to be a stud, that are going to be like, see, Gettleman knew what he was doing. It's still a bad pick, even if Jones turns out to be a good player, because you could have gotten this guy later on in the draft.
Yeah. And
you could have gotten somebody better earlier in the draft. Now, there wasn't a lot of people willing to trade up. So people that are like, well, they could have traded down. No, they probably wouldn't have been able to do that. The Jets were trying to trade out of 3. Nobody really wanted that pick. So I'm not going to knock them for not getting a haul for that 6th pick and taking him 17th. But you could have gotten a better defensive tackle, like a guy like Oliver, who we talked about last week, and still taken Daniel Jones at 17. As a matter of fact, Corey, you probably still could have taken Daniel Jones at the top of the 2nd round if you really, really wanted him. Because from what we're hearing and seeing, it didn't look like anybody else.
Nobody was on him in the 1st round. He probably would have been there for NYG in the 2nd round. Gettleman comes back out again yesterday talking about, laugh if you want to. I'll be in 3 years from now. He'll have the last laugh.
He will, because he's going to make $3 or $4 million and get fired in 3 or 4 years. He's going to be living on a boat somewhere. So he'll be laughing like, I don't care. I got my money anyway.
And the thing about it is, when you start saying stuff like that, you're taking it personal. And the fact that he's taking it personal, I think he realizes that he's made a mistake. Like you said, Allen could have been the guy, Williams, whatever the case may be. But Williams is gone already. The problem is, this is the thing with the Giants, right? It's now all of a sudden they're talking about this culture. Or we wouldn't have taken Ed Oliver because we don't know if that had been right for our culture. Your culture is losing. You know what I'm saying? That's what your culture is right now, New York Giants. Your culture is winning 6 games in the last 2 seasons. Your culture is, ever since y'all got off that boat, haven't been able to get anything done. When the New York Giants Super Bowl champions, their culture was Lawrence Taylor doing dope on the sideline. Their culture was Plexico Burress shooting himself at a nightclub. That's when the New York Giants was good. So don't sing me this culture shit now.
Well, again, I mean, whenever I hear stuff like this, like our culture,
yeah,
it just agrees with what you were saying last week about the reason why they didn't take Haskins is because he's black.
Yeah.
That's exactly the reason why, especially when you're up there talking about culture, and trading away Odell Beckham and all this stuff. You are not trying to win football games.
Yeah.
You're not trying to win football games.
Guess they're trying to cleanse the locker room. They get rid of Snacks. They get rid of Odell. You need pieces. That when you do something like that, you got to bring pieces back. You know what I'm saying? You had an opportunity to get a good player at 6, especially if you weren't going to continue to go with Eli. They made that mistake right there. They didn't want the kid Haskins to be the face of their franchise. Either they didn't want Haskins to be the face of their franchise, or they were scared that Haskins was going to outperform Eli and the fan base was going to send Eli to the bench.
But Geno Smith outperformed Eli and sent Eli to. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the thing that I don't understand. It's like you're talking about culture, right? You're talking about you want to create a winning culture. You don't create a winning culture by holding on to a quarterback that's well past usefulness.
Yeah.
Create a winning culture by trading some of your best defensive players away and some of your best offensive players away. You don't create a winning culture by letting a guy like Landon Collins walk out the door in free agency.
Yeah.
That's not how you create a winning culture. You create a winning culture by keeping your best players there and holding them accountable. It comes from the top. It comes from the management. It comes from the coaching. You know, like there's a lot of guys that are assholes that, you know, Randy Moss, for all intents and purposes, was kind of an asshole. But he wasn't when he played for Coach Belichick because Coach made you pull the line. Changing the culture, it's like, well, we got to bring in our guys to change the culture. Again, losing is one of the biggest things that causes friction in the locker room.
That's going to destroy the culture.
Yeah, when you're 13-3, when you're 12-4, you don't get upset about
everybody living their best life. You know what I'm saying?
Right. When you're 5-11, when you're 6-10, when you're missing the playoffs year after year, that's when all of a sudden everybody's getting on everybody else's case. Especially when you have a superstar wide receiver who has a quote unquote superstar quarterback who can't even get him the goddamn ball. And then if you're Corey, you know, man, you've worked for companies before where you've sat around and you've watched the stars of the companies walk away.
Yeah.
And people who you were like, how the hell does that guy keep his job when we letting all these other people walk away? That's exactly what's happening here. If you're a New York Giants offensive lineman right now, if you're a New York Giants defensive player that's been there for 2 or 3 years, you cannot look around the locker room and say, man, we're a better team this year than we were the last couple years. Look, over there, we got this guy, we got this guy, we got this guy. If you're a New York Giants player, you're sitting there like, man, we let Odell walk, we let Landon Collins walk, we let Damon Harrison walk. You're talking about like guys that have been stars and all pros in this league for years. One of the best run defenders, one of the best safeties, arguably the best wide receiver in football. You don't get better letting these guys walk out the front door.
Best offensive player in New York Giant history.
I mean, you could probably even go that far. I wouldn't even say the most talented by far.
Yeah.
Maybe not the guy who put up the best numbers, but the fact that he didn't put up the best numbers wasn't his fault. It was the fault of the quarterback who couldn't get him the ball. And you gave that guy a contract extension for $20 million, which meant you had to get rid of all these other guys. Like I said, if I'm a New York Giants football player and I'm sitting in that locker room, I don't have confidence in my front office.
You want out.
Yeah, it's not I'm not like, wow, I can't believe that we're going to have a winning culture right now or that we're changing the culture right now.
We got nice guys in the locker room, yeah.
Yeah, you know? Like, oh, yeah, well, you know what? Yeah. Any of these guys can marry my sister, but I don't want them out there in the trenches when they're playing football.
Exactly, you know what I'm saying? Hey, meet Daniel, you know what I'm saying? No, here's the thing. Listen, it's all a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of BS. It shows you that they have no clue what they're doing. They're trying to change the culture. You're not going to change the NFL. All you're going to be is bottom feeders and losers. You look at that division right now, you got a problem on your hand. You got good young talent in that division. Don't get me wrong, the Giants do have Barkley, but you got Zeke, you got Dak, you got Amari Cooper, you got Haskins, you got Darius Geis in that division, you got Carson Wentz and all the pieces that Philadelphia putting together. So it's going to be tough sledding in the NFC East for the New York Giants. But if you guys want to be we have the right culture in the locker room, let's see how many fans you have in the stands and what happened with this New York City media, because they're going to be coming for the New York Giants, and that's a huge situation right there. Now, the one kid they did draft, he gets shot, no fault of his own, in a party the other night. Then Mike Francesa comes on the radio yesterday and talks about the kid like he did a stick-up. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on, Benny? We are living in wild times right now.
Hey, you know, I mean, you know, Mike Francesa, he's the czar. He's the guy.
Yeah.
You know. He's the one that Gettleman is listening to. As long as the good people that are 87 years old listening to WFAN think that you know that the Giants are doing the right things, that's all that matters really right now. You know, I mean, again, this is not of all the things that are going on with the Giants, this is the one that I have like the least problem with. You know what I mean? Like, this is one of those bad situations, like wrong place, wrong time kind of deals. Like you said, it's not like the kid was out there and got shot escaping from robbing a bank or something like that.
He wasn't doing a hit. You know what I'm saying? You know, he didn't run off on the plug.
You know, it's a crazy situation. It's one of those things. You know, this happens a lot of times, right? When they say when it rains, it pours. Well, right now it's
Exactly.
pouring on Giant fans, man. It's pouring on them right now.
And listen, and I'm not going to sit up here and act like, I'm upset about it, but it is a situation where, come on, this is New York City. The team should be doing a little bit better than that as they try to put it together. FantasyGuru.com is the season-long site over here at Elite Fantasy Sports Network, FantasyGuru.com. I believe right now, promo code DRAFT, DRAFT, gets you 20% off the full season right now as they get ready to rock and roll and the full season fantasy football coming up in a few, coming up later on this year, but obviously best fall season and drafts will be starting to heat up pretty soon as we're now past the NFL draft. Benny, if I had to go, like not having a board in front of me and not doing no draft as of yet, if I had to go 1-1 in the PPR, I really would consider Christian McCaffrey as long as I know Cam is healthy.
I mean, again, with the amount of balls that they get thrown his way right now and, in a full PPR, that's huge. I mean, Christian McCaffrey was a guy on DraftKings that I was playing basically on a weekly basis because, they were giving him the chance to run for, 15, 20 carries a game, and then he was also getting another 10 passes thrown his way. I mean, he was a very, very high usage guy, and in a PPR, when you got guys catching passes and running and getting in the end zone and scoring touchdowns, yeah, there's a lot of reasons that's not a crazy statement right there.
Yeah, I like him. It's going to be interesting to see where Le'Veon Bell fits into the equation when it comes to the first round. I'm quite sure he's not going to be in the second round, probably somewhere in the middle of that round one. I think, like you mentioned, I think it was last week or the week before last, his volume should be off the charts, Lev Bell.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you're looking at Lev Bell as probably a 20 to 25 touch back, if not more, on a weekly basis. And he's going to be involved in the passing game. He's going to get the carries. I'm assuming he's going to get the goal line work and all that too. So we got to see how it's still a little – this is why best ball is a little tough right now because you still got to see how some of the stuff works out before you can really make these decisions. But, yeah I mean,
I wouldn't put a bag behind a best ball team. If I can do like a $10, $20 one, is a mock draft or practice, something like that, I would hop in on that. I'm not doing no NFFC draft champions. I kind of want to get to know a little bit more about what's going to be going on.
Well, you did say, I don't know if you remember, we had this discussion. You did say the guy that won the big one last year.
First week of May. You drafted that team. May 9th. That was crazy. I never forget that. But, obviously, you got to be able to catch that value. I don't see what a ton of value is at with some of these rookie running backs this year because I don't think there's nobody, maybe that kid in Oakland, but there's nobody that I can see that's going to be in a situation right now that can come in and say, okay, like when Zeke was drafted by Dallas, you got Zeke going to the team that has the best offensive line. Okay, that's a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley. They don't have nothing else besides Odell Beckham, and the quarterback can't get the ball to him, and Barkley's a free talent. I don't think we have that in this class right here.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about it the other week, right? There were only 7 fantasy skill position players drafted in the first round of this year's draft, I think, with the number. So between
2 of them were tight ends.
I was just about to say that. And 2 of them were tight ends, and, one of them at least, and Daniel Jones, is not going to be starting right away at quarterback. So, really you don't have a lot of guys that are jumping off the page as, new additions that we really got to start putting in there to, Murray will probably wind up starting there. And if he does, he's going to be somebody that, is going to be like a mid to late round quarterback draft. Haskins, you could probably put a little bit behind him in the same kind of boat. But really, what else are you going for? I mean, you had the running back from Oakland. You had the two tight ends. You had the wide receiver, the kid Harry from New England.
Harry, went to New England.
And then Brown, right? Brown is the other one.
Yep. Brown. Well, I'm about to say Brown Jr., but Brown removed Brown.
Yeah.
I saw something, Benny, that I thought might catch your attention. A reporter was on a reporter from Arizona went on WQAM in Miami, and it was talking about Josh Rosen.
Mm-hmm.
And the reporter was like, one of the things that a report that he had heard was one of the reasons why Arizona wasn't enthralled with Josh Rosen was because he was an environmentalist. And I'm like, yo, the NFL is wild, yo. Like, yo, business of that is yours. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so what the hell does that have to do with anything? I don't understand what that has to do with him being a football player.
He has interests outside of football that don't include beating women. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's wild.
All right, so, you got guys outside of football that are rappers. You got guys that are real estate moguls. You got guys that own car dealerships. You had Peyton Manning who owned like 100 Papa John's, like, racist, pizza places. Like, is this the first guy who has something outside of football. I mean, Tom Brady wants to be a freaking model. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't understand why, having something outside of football, like, I mean, is he missing practices to go to, like, Greenpeace rallies or something like that? Because, all right, that I could see how it would be a problem, but we're going to get rid of him because he's an environmentalist. What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything?
They said that he asked Adidas to make his cleats out of recycled like pieces or something. What was it?
All right, so let me ask this question.
Yeah,
does it matter?
He asked Adidas to make his shoe out of recycled plastics.
So what? Does that matter? like this is what I don't understand. Like, listen, let's all be honest here, Corey, right? The reason why he's not the Arizona quarterback right now is because they brought in a new coach, and he doesn't really fit that coach's system.
I agree.
And that coach basically
the reason.
And I don't blame Kingsbury either, because if I'm coming in there and if you hand me my opportunity to go coach a professional team, I want to put together the kind of team that I want to coach that I think I can be successful with. Because if I'm sitting here trying to bring along a Josh Rosen who doesn't fit my system, I'm going to be fired and out of a job in 2 or 3 years. So if I think Kyler Murray is the guy that fits my system,
go get him.
I'm going to bring him in there. I'm going to start with him from day one. I'm going to teach him the way to go, and I'm going to show you why you hired me to be the coach so that I can put this type of a system together. Now, does it suck that Josh Rosen's there? Yeah, it sucks that you wasted a first-round draft pick on him. But, I have an economics degree, right? Like, that was what I took in college. One of the things you always talk about in economics is the fallacy of sunk cost, right? Once you draft Josh Rosen, he's yours. There's nothing they can do about it. They can't get a do-over for last year and go draft somebody else instead. The only thing you can do with your decision-making is, here's what we have today, here's where we want to be, here's how we handle getting there. So today they look at it and say, Josh Rosen is not our guy, but we can go take Murray, who is our guy, so we're going to go take him. Now your problem is, what do we do with Josh Rosen? Doesn't matter if you took him in the first round last year, the 7th round last year.
You got to get rid of him.
$1 million or $5 million. If he doesn't fit, you get rid of him. Otherwise, you're just holding on to him, and the sunk cost of taking him is only dragging you down even further. So you cut ties, you give him an opportunity to go down to Miami, a place where maybe he starts, maybe he resurrects and becomes the quarterback you thought he was when you drafted him. But if you already have a guy in that position, he does you no good to hold on to him and hold him there. I think the best situation is exactly what happened. They got rid of him. They got something for him. They brought in the guy that they wanted. Now everybody can move on.
I feel bad for Rosen, though, because a year from now, this time, he's going to be in the same exact position. Because the Miami Dolphins are going to be the worst team in the NFL. The Miami Dolphins may go 0-16. The Miami Dolphins want either Tua, Jake Fromm, or, God, the other kid's name always escapes me right now, the third quarterback that's going to be in this class. Tua, so it's Tua, it's Jake Fromm, and somebody else is going to be probably the first 3 picks of the draft in 2020. And Rosen is going to be a rookie quarterback is going to come in and take Rosen's job again. And he could be on the move again. And this is a kid that was drafted in the top 3 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again,
when you get a big piece of chicken, Josh Rosen, you and your environmentalists. Matter of fact, you get a big piece of vegan chicken.
I was just going to say, he probably doesn't. He wants a tofu turkey or something like that. He doesn't want the chicken. But, I mean, to me, there's nothing wrong with that, though, right? I mean, this is a league. This is a league that's all about competition. You go out there and you compete.
Yep.
If you're better than the other guy, you're going to get the spot. And here's the other thing, too, about being a backup quarterback in this league. How many backup quarterbacks have we seen step into major roles?
Yep.
I mean, you look at a guy like Case Keenum.
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles, yeah. A lot of these guys step in because quarterback's a position where a lot of guys get hurt. So even if you wind up as a backup somewhere, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. There's only 32 jobs, Corey. There's only 32 jobs for starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So even if you're a backup, you're still one of the best 60 quarterbacks in the freaking world. So, I mean, this guy is somebody who, at the very least, is being talked about as one of those 60 guys. You're going to find the spot. You're going to get an opportunity. It's up to you when you get that spot and you get that opportunity, wherever it ultimately is, to go out there and prove to people that you belong there. The way he played last year, he did not prove to people that he belonged. So if you get a second chance, make sure you take advantage of it.
As the NBA playoffs wind down, if you still want some action, head on over to GuruElite.com. EliteFantasy.com right now. Sign up for your MLB touting packages, as these guys get you running for daily MLB action each and every night. I've already seen some of the screenshots come in, Benny. So Cats is already winning some dollars. Have you stuck your toe in the waters yet?
Yeah, I play, again, with NBA going on, I'm alternating between days I'm writing NBA and days I'm writing MLB. So basically, whatever day I'm writing, if I'm doing the research, I'm playing.
You're playing, no doubt.
The days that I'm writing NBA, I'm playing NBA. The days that I'm writing MLB, I'm playing MLB. So I haven't been as hardcore as I usually am at this point in the season. But you know what I like about baseball is we got 5 more months of this.
There you go.
Right now, I'm looking at these small sample sizes and just kind of taking my notes and seeing who I like and who's hitting well and where guys are in the order and what their prices are on the sites. So, just kind of making my notes. And, once basketball's over, then you'll start seeing me hopping in there pretty big on baseball on a daily basis. Right now, it's 2 or 3 days a week when I'm writing the baseball article.
That is EliteFantasy.com. Head on over there right now and get ready to jump in with Benny. And I'm quite sure you'll have a profitable run as you go through the rest of the season. All right, let's get back to the NBA right quick. Last night we saw Denver get that big W over Portland. Portland looked like Dame time was coming down the stretch. He was starting to get hot. Denver makes some big baskets, hold them off. Portland is still, right now, this morning, Portland is plus 205 this morning. I still love Portland in this series. I don't think the Nuggets can beat them.
So here's the deal. I mean, I was digging into this for the article yesterday. So these teams played 4 times during the regular season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Denver won the first 3 games. The 4th game was at Portland, and it was a back-to-back where they played the first game in Denver, and then the second game was in Portland, so they did a home and away back-to-back. Denver sat all their starters for that game. The only game that Portland beat Denver this year was that game that Denver sat all their starters.
Okay.
So the first 2 games of the season, Denver won by 1 and by 3 with Nurkic still playing. The one game they played him late in the season when Nurkic was already out, Kanter had a pretty big game like he did last night, which is why he was in the write-up if he was healthy. But they beat him by about 10. Last night, again, they played him and they beat him by about 10. I honestly think Denver is the better team.
10 points better than them, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say 10 points, but I'm going to say 5 to 10 points better. So if you're getting, like last night, I took the Denver -4, which was awesome because I was also on Toronto, which we'll talk about in a minute here. But the Denver -4 made up for the Toronto bets last night and, helped me kind of break even on a night where I lost a bunch of those bets that and parlays and everything else that all had Toronto as one of those teams because I expected them to play a lot better than they did last night.
Yeah, and I expected a little bit more from the Blazers last night also, but I'm going to continue to rock with them in this series, especially when I hop in on them today at plus 205. But Denver gets that big win. They advanced after the other night, that crazy no-foul situation. That was out of control. For a Greg Popovich team to do that, I was like, what the hell is going on? So they come out, they get this big one last night, but obviously I would say, well, maybe you could say the marquee matchup last night in Toronto with the Raptors and the 76ers. 76ers come out, Jimmy Butler with a big rebound performance after that first breakdown of the game from a couple nights ago. I was on the over in this game. It came in well under. I did like the 76ers, though, so I had a small bet on the Sixers. But JB came back, and he showed up, and he showed out, and Joel Embiid, and you know what? We got a series now.
So the Toronto Raptors last night, with 4 minutes left in the second quarter, only had 26 points.
That was crazy. Against the 76ers.
Exactly. Against a team that normally everybody's scoring points against. You normally have 70 against or 60 against the Sixers at halftime. They had 26 points in the first 20 minutes of that game. But they finished with, 90-something? So they scored 64 points in the last 28 minutes of that game, which just goes to show you how horribly they started that game out. And the thing is, though, this is what I got out of that game after watching it. Like, the Raptors looked like absolute dog shit yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like the 76ers were great. I mean, the 76ers had 13, 14 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid didn't even score an actual, basket until, the third or fourth quarter. They played – basically, you know who they owe that win to yesterday? They owe that win to James Ennis and Greg Monroe. And as crazy as that sounds, both of those guys came in and played 20-something minutes and put up numbers yesterday. I mean, Boban is too slow to play in this series. All these people that love Boban and is like, Boban could be the best player in the NBA. Why don't they play him more?
Boban should play him more.
Yeah, they don't play him more because he can't play any defense. He can't move on that end of the floor. Yes, if you park him directly in front of the basket, he will grab a bunch of rebounds and make a bunch of layups for the 7 or 8 minute stretch that he's in the game. But, what I really liked yesterday is you actually saw that the Sixers realize, like, hey, we cannot play this guy significant minutes, even if Embiid can't go, which puts them in a really bad spot now because Monroe left that game yesterday and didn't return. And if you saw late in the fourth quarter, they were trying to steal minutes with guys like Jonah Bolden and Amir Johnson going in there. And I don't know. I mean,
Amir Johnson of the cell phone gate.
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Greg Monroe, but he played really well yesterday in the minutes that he was in there. Are they going to get that same kind of production out of Amir Johnson and Jonah Bolden going forward? And is Joel Embiid going to get back to being a dominant player? Like last night he had the shits. The last game last week he had, some injuries and some problems. My biggest problem with Embiid, Corey, and I don't think this is even a crazy statement, 4 years from now, I think Joel Embiid is out of the league.
And that's what people say in the 76ers. If the 76ers want to win a championship with this core, they got to win it quick because they got a short window because Joel Embiid is going to break down. Joel Embiid having the shits, Benny, it brings me to another thing I want to talk about with this series because you never can tell, especially with these young dudes up there in the six. Toronto's a notorious party town. We've already seen the footage of Ben Simmons out till 1 a.m. in the morning, at least 1 a.m. in the morning before game number one. Embiid has the shits, you know what I'm saying? Or as my son used to say when he was a little boy, Daddy don't feel good because he drank too much beer, you know what I'm saying? But I worry about the maturity of this team. Benny, do you have a problem with a player being out 1 o'clock in the morning late before a playoff game?
I mean, I don't want to say yes because there are some guys that can do it and there are some guys that can't. And there are some guys that are responsible with it. Like put it this way. If I see you stumbling out of the club at 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm betting on the other team.
Yeah.
But, 1 o'clock in the morning, I mean, listen, I don't go to bed every night. I go to bed every night at 1:30, 2 o'clock because I'm watching games and stuff like that. So, I mean, I have no problem with you being up at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, I didn't even have a problem with Jordan going to AC and gambling till 1 or 2 in the morning when he was playing. Because you got to think, too, if you're an NBA player, like, we got to get up for work at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. These guys don't go to work, even if you have to be at the, be there for shoot-around. Shoot-around's 4 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. So if you're out at 1 o'clock in the morning, you can still go home and sleep for 14 hours before you need to be somewhere. So
I agree with you, but what I think the detractors of it is, okay, you should be worried about something. You shouldn't be worried about that right now. Like right now, this is the NBA playoffs. You should be focused on the NBA playoffs, not, you know what I'm saying, not bottle service. You feel what I mean?
No,
I think, the disagreement comes in. I don't listen. Game 38 of the regular season, and you in Phoenix. You know what I'm saying? And y'all got some thoughts waiting at the table. I'm gonna be there with y'all. You know what I'm saying? Game 1 of the playoffs, I might be like, yo, I'm reading my Bible tonight, fellas.
Yeah, here's the only thing I'll say about this, Corey, right? Like, I don't think there's anybody that parties harder than Gronk, right? When Gronk goes out, Gronk goes out.
Gronk's not a drinker, though.
But it is what it is. But during the regular season, you never see Gronk out doing this kind of stuff at night, right? The Patriots are a winning organization. Tom Brady, you never see him out. You might see him at a wine tasting after the season's over on half something like that. But you don't see him out the night before this stuff. So I kind of get where you're coming from. I mean, again, if your goal here is to win the championship, you should be all about that goal for 2 months. Because as soon as the season's over, you got 4 or 5 months where you got nothing to do, where you can go party in Ibiza and anywhere else you want to go and get down. And, all those chicks who slipped you their number in June and July, they'll still be there in August and September when you got nothing else going on. So
guarantee you that 100%. You can nail on the head. Them thoughts is not going anywhere. They will be right there. I guarantee you that, my man. Let's get into some nice actions, Benny. You got Boston game and Milwaukee game 2 back at the First Serve Arena. Crowd was not – I was disappointed with the Milwaukee Bucks crowd. Then again, the team was playing bad. Milwaukee comes in laying 7.5 yet again. And the over-under is sitting at 219. This looks like a trap game.
I mean, listen, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, and I looked at some of the numbers already this morning. Like, all the money's coming in on the Celtics at plus 7.5.
Yep.
Plus 7.5 is a huge number.
That's going to drop. That's probably going to drop to 5.5.
I mean, this is a team that won the first game by, 20-something, 30? I don't even know what the final score of that was because it turned into that big of a blowout. And now they're a 7-point underdog here. Like, again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. When you look at when you're a gambler, you want to have your money on the right side of something. Getting 7.5 with the Celtics seems to be the right side of this game. So if you're betting, I don't see any way you can take the Bucks here. And again,
I'm one of the 100% on that, Benny. But this number, like I said, this number should close around 5.5 because all that money's going to pour in on the Celtics. And they're just not a big public team like Boston, getting all of that love, catching 7.5 or 5.5 or whatever many points. It looks like a trap game to me. I'm going to fade the public in this one and go with the Milwaukee Bucks.
More power to you. Good luck. I mean, I've been one of the biggest Bucks guys all season long. So don't get me wrong. And again, I don't want to overreact to one game, but watching that one game, if you would have told me what is the line on this game going to be, I would have said Celtics +3.
I know or maybe even the favorite. But you said, +3 would make it even. Yeah.
Yeah. +3 would have been, and that's exactly what I was thinking. Is +3 would have been neutral floor. These two teams are even.
Yeah.
Depending on who's home, you get about 3 points. To make them a 7-point favorite, you're basically saying that, a 7.5-point underdog. You're basically saying that Milwaukee's a 4 or 5 point better team. And I did not see Milwaukee, the way they played in game one, as a 4 or 5 point better team here. So for me, I'm perfectly fine going with the Celtics, taking getting 7.5. You're giving me 7.5 and the Celtics, I'll take that.
219. What do you think about that total? It seemed kind of high to me.
Yeah, I mean,
for the Bucks is not though. Yeah. These
are two good defensive teams too, though. I mean, the Bucks. See, here's the deal: is one of the reasons why that game worked out the way it did is that Celtics dictated pace.
Yeah,
they didn't play at the Milwaukee Bucks place. This wasn't a 120-110 game. It was 112-90 or something like that.
It was to the point where I was like, "Is this one over yet?" What I'm saying?
That's why I said I don't even remember what the final score was because I stopped watching at one point and just clicked the baseball at that point. So. Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that what was it, 219?
219.
Yeah, I mean, I would go Celtics in the under today. That's the way I'm Celtic, not money line. Celtics +7.5 in the under is the way that I'm looking at this game.
The Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors is the nightcap tonight. Game 2 of that series. Golden State laying 5.5 in this one, Benny.
This one's a little tougher. I mean, I was on the Warriors in the first game. I'd probably stay that way, but really, I think I'm just avoiding this one. I expect the Warriors to win. 5.5 is a decent amount of points. Again, I think this entire series is going to be close, and it's going to come down to who makes plays the last couple minutes of any of these games.
220.5 is the number. I think that they can get over that one. Once again, like I said, the reason why I would lean more towards the over in this Golden State and Houston series is these games will have a overtime at some point, and obviously overtime will push them over the number right there. Let's get ready to get a couple big pieces of chicken and get out of here. Not to be funny, but I want to give a big piece of chicken to Kyler Murray, actually being the #1 pick in the NFL draft. The 45th president did not acknowledge you, Kyler Murray, but I will. You get a big piece of chicken for being #1 pick in the NFL draft and also being a first rounder in the Major League Baseball draft.
Yeah, I'm going to give my big piece of chicken to Coach Mike Malone with the Denver Nuggets. He went out there and he got through that first series. He went out there, he got the first win in this series. This Denver team missed the playoffs last year on the last day by, losing a game on the last day right before the playoffs started. They came out with a mission this year to make sure that they weren't in a situation where losing a game on the last day or having to fight for the last week of the season was going to be the reason they were in or out of the playoffs. They got the 2 seed. They got past the first round, the tough matchup with the old guard knocking off the Spurs, and they came out swinging, and they started off nice against Portland. I'm back on the Denver bandwagon here. So big piece of chicken, Coach Mike Malone.
All right, there you go, Coach Mike Malone. Don't forget tonight the Felipe Lopez joint, the Dominican Dream 30 for 30, along with the good basketball. So we'll chat about that tomorrow. For my main man, Benny Ricciardi, I'm Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. This is the opening line, and we are out.